Hello, my beautiful friends. I hope you're doing well. Today's video is really close to my heart because I'm going to talk about something that has completely changed my life in the best way possible. Reading. Yes, my dear friends, the topic for today's video is how reading changes your life. And trust me, I'm not just saying it because it sounds good or because it's trendy to say read more books. I'm saying it because I've lived it. I've felt the changes reading brings, not just in my knowledge, but in my mindset, my emotions, my confidence, and even in the way I see the world. And I really want to share that journey with you today, as naturally and honestly as if I'm sitting right next to you, chatting over a warm cup of tea. So, are you ready? Let's get into it. Okay, so I want to start from the beginning because, like many people, I didn't grow up with books in my hand all the time. I was a normal girl, spending time on my phone, watching series, scrolling through Instagram, and basically living online. Books were something I saw in libraries or on dusty shelves at school. They didn't feel interesting to me. In fact, I used to think reading was boring. I know, right? But then something happened. I was going through a tough time emotionally. I was feeling a bit lost in life, confused, insecure, like nothing was going right. You know that phase where you question everything? Who am I? What am I doing with my life? Why do I feel like I'm stuck while everyone else seems to be moving forward? One day, I randomly picked up a book that a friend had left at my place. It was The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, and oh my God, I still remember that feeling. It was like something woke up inside me. The story was so simple, yet so powerful. It spoke to me in a way no person ever had. I felt seen, I felt understood, I felt inspired, and that was the beginning. From that day, reading became my safe space, my escape, my therapy. And over time, it became so much more than that. It became my teacher, my motivator, and my best friend. Reading started changing my life in ways I never imagined, and I want to talk about all of them with you. I'll go deep because this isn't a listicle. This isn't a top 5 benefits of reading type of video. This is real life. This is personal. And this is from one soul to another. So first, reading changed my thinking. Before I became a reader, my thoughts were all over the place. I would easily get influenced by other people's opinions. I would compare myself to others constantly. I used to think success meant having a fancy job or looking perfect on social media. I never really thought deeply about anything. But books made me think, like really think. They opened my mind. When I read stories from different cultures, when I learned about how people live, how they feel, how they grow, I started realizing how small my perspective was. And slowly I began developing my own opinions. I became more curious, more reflective. I started asking better questions, not just accepting things the way they are, you know? One day, I read a quote that said, "Books don't give you answers. They teach you how to ask the right questions." And I feel that in my soul. Reading helped me build mental clarity. I could finally hear my own voice inside my head. Not society's, not social media's, just mine. Then, reading made me emotionally stronger. This part is so important. When I say books became my therapy, I truly mean it. Whenever I was feeling anxious or low or heartbroken or confused, I would turn to a book. Not necessarily self-help books, sometimes just a good story. But reading made me feel less alone. It reminded me that other people go through pain too, that healing is possible, that things change, that I can grow. There's something so beautiful about reading someone's words and realizing that they once felt what you're feeling now. It's healing, it's comforting, it's powerful. One time I was reading this novel where the main character was going through heartbreak, and the way the author described her emotions was exactly how I was feeling at the time. I cried so much while reading it, but when I closed the book, I actually felt lighter, like the pain had been shared and somehow reduced. That's the power of books. They hold space for your emotions. Next, reading gave me confidence. Yes, confidence. And no, I don't mean the walk like a boss kind of confidence. I mean the quiet, deep inner confidence that comes from knowing things. When I started reading regularly, I began to feel more confident in conversations. I had opinions, I could speak up, I could contribute. I felt more prepared for life, and especially for someone like me who used to be a little shy in social settings. Books gave me language, they gave me words, they gave me something to talk about. Whether it's in English or my native language, I started expressing myself better because I was constantly feeding my mind with rich language through books. Also, as someone who's learning English as a second language, let me just say reading English books really improved my vocabulary, grammar, and sentence structure in a natural way. I didn't even realize how much I was learning just by reading a little every day. And then comes another beautiful thing. Reading helped me build discipline and focus. In today's world, our attention span is shorter than ever. We're always multitasking, scrolling, switching apps, and getting distracted. But when you sit down with a book, you're training your mind to focus, to stay in one place, to go deep instead of wide. At first, it was hard for me. I would read 2 pages and then grab my phone. But slowly, I built the habit. I started with 10 minutes a day, then 20, then 30. Now I can easily read for an hour and feel fully present. That focus spills over into other parts of life too, like work, relationships, and self-discipline in general. And one more thing, reading taught me how to enjoy solitude. This one is huge. Earlier, I used to feel lonely when I was alone, like I needed to constantly talk to someone or be around people. But once I became a reader, I fell in love with my own company. I didn't need anyone to feel whole. Books gave me joy even in the quietest moments. They became my best companion. And through reading, I also realized that there's a whole universe inside me. Thoughts, dreams, ideas, imagination. And I began exploring that world deeply. I learned how to be still, how to be at peace, and that changed everything. Also, reading helped me understand people better because when you read stories, fiction, biographies, memoirs, you see life through different eyes. You understand different emotions, struggles, cultures, and personalities. It increases your empathy. You become less judgmental. You start seeing the world with compassion. I remember reading a novel about a woman going through postpartum depression. I had no idea what that felt like before, but that story opened my heart. It made me kinder, more understanding toward new moms in real life. And that's just one example. The more I read, the more human I became. And isn't that the real goal of life, to grow into better human beings? Now, I want to say something from the bottom of my heart. Reading is not about quantity. You don't have to finish 100 books a year. You don't need to show off your bookshelf or share your reading list online. What matters is consistency and intention. Even if you read one good book in a month and you truly absorb its message, that's enough. That's powerful. That can transform your life. Also, don't limit yourself to one type of book. Try everything: novels, self help, history, science, poetry, even children's books sometimes. Every genre has its own magic. Every author has a unique voice. And you never know which book will speak to your soul. And please don't feel guilty if you can't finish a book. Sometimes the timing isn't right. Sometimes the book is not meant for you. And that's okay. Reading should never feel like pressure. It should feel like pleasure, like nourishment, like home. Now, I want to end this video with one simple message. If you're feeling lost in life, start reading. If you're looking for inspiration, start reading. If you want to grow, heal, understand yourself better, start reading. Because books are not just made of pages and words, they are made of hearts, minds, and souls. And when you open a book, you're not just reading, you're connecting, you're awakening, you're becoming. So, as I was saying, let's dive even deeper into the wonders that reading has brought into my life. You know, there's something incredibly magical about the way books transport you to different worlds, different realities, almost like portals that open your eyes to endless possibilities. I remember one rainy afternoon when I had nowhere to be and no plans in mind. I curled up with a book, completely immersed in a story set in a bustling city decades ago. In that moment, I wasn't just reading. I was living those experiences, feeling the rhythm of those days, and understanding that life has so many layers. It was as if time and space melted away, and I was free to explore every corner of that vibrant narrative. This immersive experience of reading not only enriched my imagination, but also ignited my creativity. I started writing little reflections, jotting down ideas in a diary whenever a new thought blossomed from a story or a sentence. It wasn't long before I realized that the creative spark from reading was transforming my outlook, fueling my own ideas, enhancing my storytelling, and even influencing how I tackled challenges in real life. I began to see that creativity isn't confined to art or writing. It's a way of approaching life with curiosity and innovation. Whether it was solving daily problems or dreaming up new ambitions, the creative mindset nurtured by reading was a constant guide. Another profound impact that reading had on me was how it reshaped my understanding of success. Growing up, many of us are taught that success is synonymous with conventional milestones: a high paying job, owning a luxury car, or achieving a prestigious title. Books, however, taught me that success is deeply personal and uniquely defined by your own dreams and aspirations. I encountered countless narratives of individuals who followed non traditional paths: artists, explorers, innovators who found success not by imitating societal norms, but by daring to follow their hearts. Their stories instilled in me the courage to pursue my own passions, even when they deviated from the expected. They reminded me that a fulfilling life is one where you are true to yourself, embracing your quirks and celebrating your individuality. One concept that often struck a chord with me is the idea of lifelong learning. Books are an endless source of knowledge, and each page holds the potential to teach you something new about the world and about yourself. By reading across various subjects — philosophy, science, history, art — I began to understand that learning isn't something that stops after school. It's a continuous journey. Every book is a teacher, and every teacher is a gateway to deeper insights. The more I read, the more I realized that the world is a vast canvas filled with ideas waiting to be explored. This mindset pushed me to never stop questioning, never stop seeking new perspectives, and never be complacent with what I already know. Reflecting on my own experiences, I remember a phase in my life when decisions felt overwhelming. Choices, whether big or small, used to paralyze me with doubt. But as I immersed myself in biographies and memoirs of people who had navigated through crisis and uncertainty, I started to see that decision making is an art, refined through experience and reflection. Books taught me that every decision carries its lessons, regardless of the outcome. I learned to embrace uncertainty, to trust my intuition, and to see every decision, even those that seemed like mistakes, as stepping stones on my personal growth journey. Another aspect of reading that really resonated with me was its power to foster deep empathy. There were moments when I would finish a book and feel an overwhelming connection with characters from entirely different walks of life. People whose struggles, joys, and dreams were so distinct, yet so familiar. This empathy spilled over into my daily interactions. I started listening more intently to others, trying to understand their perspectives without judgment, and treating every individual with a gentle kindness. Whether it was a colleague facing a tough day, a friend sharing a personal struggle, or even a stranger in passing, I found that the lessons in empathy from the books I read helped me make these interactions more meaningful. Reading taught me that behind every smile, there's a story, and every story deserves to be heard. And then there's the beautiful silence of solitude that reading has introduced into my life. Before books became an integral part of my day, I dreaded moments of solitude. I viewed them as empty or lonely. But over time, I discovered that solitude, when cherished, is a space where creativity and self discovery flourish. It's in those quiet moments, with a book in hand and a mind open to wonder, that I learned to reconnect with myself. I started to appreciate the peace that comes from introspection, the kind of serenity that reminds you that you're enough, that you can be your own best company, and that every quiet moment is an opportunity to listen to the whispers of your own heart. I also realized that reading is a celebration of diverse voices. In my early reading days, I mostly consumed books that reflected perspectives similar to my own. But as I grew more adventurous, I began exploring literature by authors from different cultures, backgrounds, and life experiences. This diversity widened my worldview and broke down the walls of my limited understanding. I saw the beauty in differences, learned about traditions and philosophies that were alien to me, and began to appreciate the intricate tapestry of human experience. This didn't just make me a more informed person, it made me a more compassionate one, eager to embrace diversity in every aspect of life. Let's take a moment to talk about the influence of reading on mental health, a subject that deserves our utmost attention. In the hustle and bustle of daily life, stress and anxiety can easily creep in. I found that reading was not just a pleasant distraction, but a powerful mental health tool. When I was overwhelmed, I'd pick up a book that was soothing or inspiring. It was as if the words on the page whispered, "Take a breath. You're going to be okay." It became a sacred time of self care. In those moments, I felt a deep connection with my inner self, a kind of mindfulness that recharged my spirit and prepared me for whatever the day might bring. That simple routine transformed my mornings into opportunities for inspiration, setting a positive tone for the rest of the day. The impact of reading doesn't end with personal growth alone. It influences the way you interact with the community and even shapes your professional life. As I began engaging in book clubs and online reading communities, I found that sharing ideas sparked new friendships and meaningful conversations. These communities became a support network, a place where different perspectives converged in a celebration of storytelling. I learned that when you share a passion, you create bonds that are both deep and enduring. Moreover, in my professional career, the analytical skills, vocabulary, and cultural insights I gained from reading opened doors to opportunities I never thought possible. I could participate in discussions more confidently, contribute informed opinions, and approach challenges with a creative mindset. Reading taught me that every piece of knowledge, no matter how seemingly trivial, has the potential to serve as a bridge to new opportunities. It's amazing how one book can inspire you to take on projects, start conversations, or even pivot your career in unforeseen directions. I'd also like to touch on how reading has gently reshaped my relationship with stress. In today's fast paced world, moments of calm are rare, and stress can become an unwelcome companion. But books, with their timeless wisdom and soothing narratives, have taught me that a deep breath, a moment of focus, and the embrace of a good story can be therapeutic. I learned to set aside time for myself, not as an act of laziness, but as a necessary form of recharging. This habit transformed stressful days into opportunities for quiet reflection, allowing me to handle challenges with a clearer mind and a more compassionate heart. In a sense, every book I've read is a stepping stone in the evolution of who I am, a chapter in my own personal story of growth. I've come to see that reading is not just a hobby or a pastime. It's a lifelong conversation with the world, a dialogue between your soul and the experiences of humanity captured in ink and paper. Each narrative, each lesson, is a reminder that we are all part of something much larger than ourselves, and that our lives are enriched by the shared tapestry of human experience. Before I wrap up this extended chat, I want to leave you with a few actionable thoughts on how you can incorporate more reading into your life and experience its transformative power firsthand. Make it a ritual. Start small, just a few minutes every day, and gradually build up a habit that feels right for you. Explore different genres. Don't just stick to what you know. Allow yourself the freedom to wander through mystery, fantasy, nonfiction, poetry, or even graphic novels. Create a cozy space. Find a quiet nook, a corner by the window, a comfy spot on your couch where you can fully immerse yourself without distractions. Join a community, whether it's an online forum, a local book club, or even a reading challenge. Sharing the experience with others can greatly enrich your journey. Reflect on what you read. Keep a journal, jot down your thoughts, or even discuss your insights with a friend. Reflection deepens learning. Be patient and enjoy the process. Reading isn't about checking off a list, it's about savoring every story, every lesson, every moment of connection with the author and your inner self. You know, sometimes I find that the deeper I get into reading, the more I begin to notice subtle changes in my daily routine and mindset. It's almost as if the act of reading reprograms my day, making each moment richer and more intentional. There are evenings when I sit by my window, the soft glow of a desk lamp, and I'm not just reading, I'm meditating on every sentence, absorbing the emotions and philosophies woven into the narrative. In those quiet moments, I've come to understand that reading is much like a personal ritual of healing and self discovery. One of the most unexpected gifts that reading has brought into my life is the ability to see beauty in the mundane. I remember a particular book that described the simple act of watering plants as a metaphor for nurturing one's dreams. At the time, I was overwhelmed by a sense of failure at not achieving the big, glamorous dreams I'd always imagined. But as I read on, I realized that every small, consistent act of care was a seed for future success. This shifted my focus from an obsession with immediate results to an appreciation for the slow, steady process of growth. I began to cherish even the tiny, seemingly insignificant moments of my day, much like the quiet, unassuming pages of a well loved book that reveal their wisdom gradually. And then there's the power of memory. I often find that certain passages or quotes stick with me long after I've finished reading, becoming touchstones that guide me through difficult times. I have a little notebook where I jot down these fragments of inspiration, a powerful line from a novel, an insightful observation, or even a quirky thought that resonates with me. When I look back at these notes on challenging days, it's as if I'm hearing the comforting voice of an old friend, reminding me of who I am and what I stand for. It's incredible how words carefully chosen and beautifully arranged can turn into guiding lights that lead us back to ourselves. Another layer of reading's impact that I treasure is the way it challenges my creativity and self expression. Every book brings a different voice, a unique style, and a plethora of ideas into my mind. Soon, I began to write stories of my own, even if they were just small musings or short poems scribbled in the margins of my journal. This creative habit not only boosted my confidence, but also nurtured an understanding that each of us has a unique voice waiting to be heard. By experimenting with words, I started to create a safe space for my emotions, where every sentence was a brushstroke on the canvas of my inner world. One of the most meaningful experiences I've had with books was discovering literature that echoed my own cultural heritage, while also inviting me to explore beyond it. I started reading authors from diverse backgrounds, and each time I turned a page, I could almost feel the pulse of history, struggle, and joy that connected us all as human beings. This exploration made me realize that our stories, no matter how distant they may seem, are all part of the same human tapestry. Through these narratives, I learned to honor my roots while simultaneously celebrating the richness of global perspectives. It's a reminder that every story adds a unique thread to the fabric of life, making it all the more vibrant and complex. I also learned that reading isn't just about personal transformation. It's about finding your voice in a collective conversation. Every time I share a thought inspired by a book, be it in discussions with friends or in one of my social media posts, I'm adding my own perspective to a dialogue that spans cultures, generations, and ideas. It's empowering to know that the simple act of reading can connect you to others who share similar passions and dreams. These shared experiences have led to wonderful friendships with fellow book lovers, where our discussions range from dissecting the characters of a timeless classic to exploring the societal implications of a modern narrative. In these spaces, I've realized that reading is not a solitary activity at all. It's a vibrant, interconnected community where every voice matters. As time went on, I recognized that every new book I touched seemed to evolve the way I processed emotions, challenges, and even successes. Reading became a mirror in which I saw my own progress. There were days when I'd look back at books I once read, and I'd be amazed at how much I had changed since then. The opinions I held, the fears I had, and even the dreams I nurtured shifted gradually, influenced by the wisdom embedded in those pages. This evolving self awareness gave me a sense of continuity, reminding me that growth is a lifelong journey, one that is enriched by every story encountered along the way. I'd be lying if I said reading always made my path easier. There were moments when the book I was reading forced me to confront uncomfortable truths, both about the world and about myself. Yet it was in those instances that I found the greatest strength. The courage to face difficult realities, to grieve for losses, or even to challenge deep-rooted beliefs came from a willingness to engage honestly with the written word. Books, with all their raw and sometimes challenging depictions, taught me that transformation often begins at the edge of discomfort. The discomfort of confronting the unfamiliar or the painful is sometimes the first step toward healing and self-realization. An interesting observation I've made over the years is the cyclical nature of reading. There are times in life when you feel unstoppable. The pages fly by almost too quickly because every moment is charged with inspiration. Then there are quieter phases when you might struggle to find motivation or even feel disconnected. Yet even in those quieter times, the knowledge that a rich reservoir of literature awaits you in the background is both comforting and promising. It reassures you that every phase is part of a larger journey, one that is not linear but filled with ebbs and flows, highs and lows. And in that rhythm, you learn the value of patience, both with yourself and with the world around you. Reflecting on all these experiences, I often marvel at how deeply intertwined reading has become with almost every facet of my life. It is more than an activity. It's a companion on days of joy and sorrow, a bridge connecting moments of solitude to a rich tapestry of shared human experience, and a constant reminder that growth is an unending process. It's in the quiet hours of dawn or the whispered pages under the stars where I rediscover who I am, who I want to become, and what magic lies within the realm of written words. If there's one thing I want you to take away from our journey together today, it's this: never underestimate the power of a good book. In a world that often rushes by, filled with constant distractions, the quiet commitment to reading is a bold act of self-love and perseverance. It's about pausing, allowing yourself to step away from the chaos, and reconnecting with your inner voice. It's about challenging yourself, even when it feels hard, to explore the endless possibilities that each page offers. And as we continue this conversation, I encourage you to reflect on the following questions. What emotions or thoughts have been stirred in you by a book you once read? How have those written words influenced decisions or paths you've taken in life? Have you ever rediscovered a forgotten piece of wisdom tucked away in a story at just the right moment? These questions aren't meant to have immediate answers. They're gentle nudges for you to pause, think, and maybe even dive back into a beloved book that you haven't opened in a while. Remember, the magic of reading isn't measured by the number of books you complete. It's measured by the depth of transformation you experience along the way. For me, reading is an ongoing conversation with the world and with myself, a conversation that evolves as I do. And as I sit here sharing these thoughts, I'm reminded that every book is an invitation to grow, to learn, to empathize, and ultimately to evolve into the best version of ourselves. Sometimes I wonder if you've ever noticed the way a book can feel like an extension of yourself, a mirror reflecting not only your current thoughts and feelings, but also your potential for change. It's amazing how, after years of diving into different genres and narratives, I've come to see books as guides on life's winding paths. They've taught me that the beauty of personal growth lies in understanding that every phase of life, every emotion experienced, is part of a grand tapestry that we are continuously weaving. There was a time when I thought the only way to truly understand someone else's experience was through direct conversation. But then I discovered that every book opened my eyes to a myriad of perspectives I might never have encountered in my own small circle. It wasn't just about knowing different cultures or historical events, it was about feeling the heartbeat of different lives, understanding love, pain, triumph, and despair through the eyes of diverse characters. That empathy, that innate ability to feel what another person is going through, has allowed me to become a better friend, a more compassionate listener, and ultimately, a more complete human being. I still remember one evening when I reread a passage that resonated so deeply with me, a moment of vulnerability that, despite the passage of time, still carried the power to heal. Each time I returned to that passage, it was as if I was catching a glimpse of my true self, a self that was fearless, kind, and capable of overcoming adversity. The magic of a well written sentence is undeniable. It doesn't just fill your mind with words, it fills your soul with the wisdom that you may have been too busy to seek out before. And then there's the playful side of reading. I love how books can make you laugh out loud, spark a mischievous grin, or even bring a tear to your eye when an unexpected twist occurs. Some nights I find myself chuckling at a line that captures a surreal, quirky observation of life, reminding me that humor is a subtle but essential thread in the fabric of our existence. That playful spirit lifts our hearts and brings balance to our lives. It's a reminder that even in the midst of serious life lessons, there is always room for laughter and lightness. Reflecting on my journey, I've come to understand that reading has been much more than a habit. It's an adventure. Every new book is like setting off on a journey with no predetermined destination, where the landscape is painted with emotions, ideas, and dreams. This adventurous spirit has spilled over into other parts of my life, urging me to try new things, step outside my comfort zone, and embrace the unknown with open arms. Whether it's experimenting with a new hobby, traveling to a place I've only read about, or simply letting my mind wander as I daydream, reading has taught me to be bold in the pursuit of experiences and knowledge. Some of you might be wondering how to maintain that wonderful habit amidst the chaos of everyday life. Well, I've learned that it isn't always about finding more time. It's about creating a space within yourself that welcomes the pause, the reflection, and the sheer pleasure of a good story. I like to think of it as planting a tiny seed of tranquility each time I open a book. With consistent care, that seed blossoms into moments of reflection that brighten even the darkest of days. My career, too, has been subtly and significantly influenced by my love for reading. I remember when I was starting out full of aspirations, yet unsure of the next step. Engaging with literature ranging from biographies of trailblazers to insightful essays on leadership and creativity helped shape my ideas about what a fulfilling career could look like. It wasn't just the practical knowledge I gained, it was the underlying values and attitudes that these books instilled in me. They taught me resilience, the importance of continuous learning, and above all, the belief that every professional journey is uniquely personal. I began to see challenges as opportunities for growth rather than obstacles to fear. And that shift in mindset opened doors to unforeseen opportunities and collaborations. Another area where the influence of reading has been profound is in strengthening my connection to the world around me. When I immerse myself in a novel set in a far off land or a historical account of times gone by, I feel as if I'm traveling without ever leaving my cozy corner. That sense of connection, of being part of something vast and timeless, has a very grounding effect on my spirit. I learned that no matter how fast paced or disconnected modern life can become, there is a constant, unchanging current of human experience that runs through every page and every story. And that realization has inspired me to live more intentionally, to honor traditions, and to seek genuine relationships that transcend superficial interactions. Reading also encouraged me to cultivate patience. In our modern digital era, where almost every instant is filtered through the lens of immediacy, slowing down to savor a book is an act of resistance and self care. I've learned to delight in the gradual unfolding of a narrative and to trust that every part of the journey, even the slow segments, is essential to my growth. This patience has seeped into other facets of my life, encouraging me to approach challenges methodically, to take time with my decisions, and to find satisfaction in the process rather than just the end result. I often think of reading as a continuous conversation, one where every author and every character and even every phrase adds to a dialogue that spans across time and space. When I write in my journal about what I've read, I'm not just engaging with voices that have crossed the boundaries of their eras to speak to mine. This dialogue has helped me not only form more coherent ideas about myself, but also to articulate my vision for the future. I cherish that form of quiet communication where, through carefully chosen words, I build bridges between my past, my present, and the person I aspire to be. Moreover, reading has a way of simplifying life. In the midst of overcomplicated modern lifestyles, diving into a good book can remind you that life's most profound truths are often the simplest ones. A kind word, an act of love, or a moment of quiet understanding. I remember reading a book that compared life to a garden. Each day is a chance to nurture the blooms, to pull the weeds, and to appreciate the sunlight, regardless of how fleeting it might be. That analogy transformed my approach to handling everyday challenges. Now, when times are hard, I remind myself that, like a garden, my life is in a constant state of growth, renewal, and transformation. There's also an incredible sense of anticipation that comes with every new book. Before I even turn the first page, there's an electrifying moment of possibility, a spark that suggests that somewhere in those pages, I might find an insight or a connection that will change how I view the world. Even now, that spark of wonder remains as potent as ever. It's that feeling of embarking on a mystery, of unraveling layers of meaning, of knowing that every book is a doorway, not just to someone else's story, but also to a deeper understanding of your own. As I continue to reflect on these moments of discovery, I realize that the true power of reading isn't found solely in the stories themselves, but in the endless ways in which they inspire us to live more mindfully and authentically. Every time you open a book, you're not just absorbing information, you're giving yourself permission to dream, to question, to hope, and to believe in the transformative power of human experience. Before I sign off, I want to offer you a few more gentle reminders, little mantras for your own literary journey. Allow yourself to be curious. Embrace the unknown with open arms. Cherish every moment of quiet reflection that reading gifts you. These are the moments where real transformation takes root. Engage with different perspectives and let them challenge your ideas. Growth often begins at the edge of comfort. Remember that every book is a friend, a mentor, or a kind voice in the midst of life's clamor. Trust that they are there for you, always ready to guide, comfort, or inspire. And finally, understand that the journey of reading is as much about self-discovery as it is about gaining knowledge. Each page is an opportunity to rewrite the narrative of your life, to challenge old habits, and to foster new dreams. Let reading be the quiet friend that walks beside you through every twist and turn of your days. Thank you so much for staying with me as we continue to explore this endless, beautiful journey together. I hope that through these reflections, you can feel the deep impact that reading has had on my life, and perhaps even inspire you to look at your own reading journey with fresh eyes. Whether you're just starting out or have been a lifelong reader, know that your story is evolving with every page you turn. Until next time, my wonderful friends, cherish each word, honor your journey, and keep your heart open to the wonders that every new book brings. I'm right here with you, celebrating every step of this transformative adventure. Take care, keep exploring, and as always, happy reading.